Give everyone a few minutes to get into the webinar, then we'll get started. Well, good morning and welcome to the next webinar in our property owner webinar series. Today, we're going to talk about the protest process and how that interaction works. What's the process? What do you even do? And some tips and tricks. So with that, we will get started. As a reminder, there's a Q&A button that you can submit any questions you have during the webinar. And at the end of the webinar, we'll go back and answer any questions that have come through. So the protest process, it has three main steps. And the first is filing your protest. So in April, we start sending out notices of appraised value, which has your market value and your net appraised, along with a lot of other information on your property. If you disagree with that market value, you can file a protest and go through that process to try to reach a resolution on your value. So the protest deadline, the deadline to file the protest, is May 15th. Or 30 days after your notice is mailed. Once you file your protest, the second step in that process is having an informal meeting with our appraiser. And those started on April 16th. It's a very simple process. You can schedule yourself for a time that's convenient for you, upload evidence for our appraiser to look at, download any evidence we have in our system to value your property, and then meet with that appraiser and discuss some of those concerns that you have about your property's market value. And if you don't reach a resolution at that informal meeting, you have the option to go to your appraisal review board formal hearing. And the appraisal review board's an independent body, and they're appointed by the local administrative judge at this time. They're a group of citizens, and you go in, sit with 3 members of the appraisal review board. They hear your evidence, they hear our appraiser's evidence, and then they make a decision. And you can resolve your protest at any point in this protest process. So, like I said, the notices of appraised value started going out in April, and we send these each April to every property owner. And it has some key information on that notice. So the first being the market value of your property. And the market value is just what your property would sell for in the open market. And we set that market value as of January 1st of each year. The second key thing that notice has is your net appraised value. And this is a limited value based on a homestead exemption or a circuit breaker limitation. And based on that limitation of either 10% for homesteads or 20% for the circuit breaker properties, you have a limited value that you can see the comparison between the market and the net appraised on your notice. And then the third key item that it shows on your notice is the taxable value of your property. And the taxable value takes that limited value and reduces it by any exemptions you're entitled to. And then that taxable value is what you actually pay your property taxes on. One thing we tell property owners is don't panic if your market value has increased. The market value increasing doesn't necessarily mean your property taxes are going to increase. The taxing units, which are the cities, the county, the school districts, water districts, they all set a tax rate each year. And that tax rate is what determines how much taxes you're going to pay. Each year, starting in August, those taxing entities will upload their proposed tax rates to our travistaxes.com website. And you can put in your property ID or your address and see how those proposed tax rates are actually going to affect your tax bill. So travistaxes.com has a great plethora of information on your property, and those are updated beginning in August of each year. So focusing on the net appraised value of your property, and again, this is that limitation value. So for properties that have a homestead exemption, they are limited to a 10% increase in market value each year. So if you have a homestead exemption, your property won't go up more than 10% in value each year. There's also a new law that passed this past session for a circuit breaker limitation, and this is for real property that is not a homestead property. So commercial property, rental properties, they are all limited to a 20% increase per year. And on your notice of appraised value, on the very first page, we highlight what the market value of the property is compared to what the net appraised or limited value is. And that's in the first box on the first page of your notice. And it's highlighted here on the screen. So you can see in this example, the market value, or what the property would sell for, is set at $650,000. But because of the homestead exemption that this property has, they're seeing a limited value of $454,000. And so if you disagree with that market value of your property, and again, you're protesting the market value, not the net appraised or how much taxes you're paying. But if you disagree with that market value of your property, you can file a protest. And the protest deadline is generally May 15th, or 30 days after your notice is mailed. Your notice of appraised value has your protest deadline date on the third page of the notice. And so you can see that in a gray box on the third page. And we want to really stress, you're not protesting your property taxes. The law only allows you to protest your market value of your property, or an exemption removal, something like that, but not your property taxes. And one key thing to keep in mind is if you do have a homestead or you're getting that circuit breaker limitation, that net appraised value is really what's affecting your taxes. So if you protest your market value of your property, in this example, the market value is $600,000, you would have to get your property reduced beneath the net appraised value of $338,000 in order to see any real tax savings. So that's something you need to look at on your property, and really determine if the protest process is a good step for you to take. In scenarios where there's a large gap between the net appraised and the market value, it's going to be really difficult and unlikely that you get the market value beneath the net appraised value when you have a big gap like this of $300,000. So again, some key terms: the market value is what you're protesting and what your property would sell for as of January 1st. Net appraised is that limitation value, and you can't protest the net appraised value. Net appraised is just a calculation. It's based on last year's value plus 10% for a homestead exemption property, or 20% for a circuit breaker limitation property. And then the taxable value, again, is what you're going to pay taxes on. So how do we file a protest? Filing a protest is very easy. We have an online portal. It is the fastest and easiest way to protest your property. You get immediate confirmation that your protest has been filed. You can upload into that portal any documents you want our appraisers to look at. You can also download any documents we use in valuing your property. You can accept or reject offers that our appraisers have made on your property. And then you can also schedule yourself for a convenient time for an informal meeting. That can all be done through your portal. And then you can easily attend that informal meeting through your portal account. You can also file a protest in person or by mail. We do want to just caution you with the mail. There have been many issues with the Postal Service, things not getting delivered, things getting lost. We are required to go off of a postmark. Not all, like if you drop it in the blue box, they don't all get postmarked. So if you're going to mail it, make sure you go into the post office, you get it postmarked on your envelope, and make sure that's timely so you have proof that it was mailed. And getting RCAD evidence, again, the easiest way to do this is through your online portal. If you're going to get that evidence through the online portal, there's no need to request it in writing. Evidence will automatically be uploaded to your portal account for you to view and download. And if you don't have an account, a portal account, your notice of appraised value will include the information you need to set that up. You'll need your owner ID and your PIN number, which is on the first page of your notice. And then if you would like to receive our evidence by mail, you can make that request in writing. Those are mailed 14 days before the formal hearings, so those don't get sent until mid-May. If you want to, again, get it the easiest and fastest way, that would be through the online portal. The informal process began on April 16th. That process is where you can meet informally with our appraiser and discuss any concerns you have for your property's market value. Informal meetings are being held through phone or video conference. They're available on a first come, first served basis through our Get in Line online option. But you can also schedule yourself for that informal meeting for a time that works for your schedule, that's convenient for you. We do ask that evidence that you would like our appraisers to review be uploaded in advance of that informal hearing, and you do have to have a protest filed in order to do the informal meeting. And then once you meet with the appraiser informally, an offer, if one's warranted, will be sent out through the portal within 2 business days. So we talked about the 2 options. Again, if it's scheduling that informal meeting for a time that's convenient for you, can all be done through the portal. You get to pick a date and time that works for your schedule. But if that doesn't work, you can also just get in line that day for the queue. We urge you to schedule a time, because just getting in line, there can be really long wait times. So traviscad.org/getinlineonline has a lot of information about the informal process and how you get in line, and how you schedule those informal meetings with the appraiser. So you'll need to provide your name and contact information. For scheduled appointments, you log into your portal at your appointment time. So you've already scheduled that appointment. You'll log in and check in. And that's a change for this year. You have to check in for your scheduled appointment through the portal. And then you'll get a text message with instructions on how to join the informal meeting. If you're going to join for that day's queue, so you don't have a scheduled appointment time, you'll get a text message once you check in. You'll get updates throughout the process. And then once it's time for your informal meeting, you'll get instructions through text or email to join the video conference. And if you don't reach a resolution through that informal process, you do get to move forward to the appraisal review board hearing. The ARB, again, is an independent body. They're currently appointed by the local administrative judge, and they're a group of Travis County citizens who sit on the appraisal review board, and they listen to property owners' formal hearings. TCAD doesn't have any influence over the ARB. Again, they're appointed by the local administrative judge, and they're not TCAD employees. Those formal hearings, if you haven't reached a resolution by that point, start in June of each year. And at your hearing, the ARB panel it's usually 3 ARB members. They sit and they listen to the arguments and evidence that the property owner presents. They listen to the evidence that the appraisal district presents, and then they make a decision on the value. And at the end, you'll receive confirmation of what that value is at the hearing, and then you'll get a final order that's sent to you certified mail. And then if you're still not satisfied with the market value of your property, you do have some post-administrative appeal options. You can go through binding arbitration, or you could file litigation in district court. So for formal hearings, you can participate in person at our office. You can also participate remotely through a video screen share video conferencing system. And then if those 2 options don't work, you can also present your evidence by affidavit, and that'll get read in at the hearing as if you were there. There will be instructions if you choose to participate remotely. Those are sent to you with your hearing letter on how to connect to the video conference and go through that remote hearing. And as a caution, formal hearings, you could have up to a 2-hour wait time past your scheduled time. And if you wait 2 hours, at that point, you can request a reschedule with the appraisal review board. So what can help you in this protest process, and how can you lower the market value? Evidence. We need evidence of why your property's market value is incorrect. The first of those would be a sales price. So if you purchased your home within the last year and the market value is higher than your sales price, you can protest and provide us with a closing statement or settlement statement from the sale, and we'll review that and adjust the market value. The sales do need to be from January 1st, 2023 forward. And again, we would need a settlement statement for that. You could also ask a realtor or broker to provide you with some comparable sales. So the sales report should include the address of the properties that sold, the date of the sale, and how much they sold for. Comparable homes need to be similar to your home, so similar in size, the number of stories, the age of the home, quality of construction, and they should be close in proximity. For our sales, we use a time frame of January 1st, 2023 to February 29th, 2024. And there are a lot of realtors that can help you pull these comparable sales for your evidence. If your property's characteristics are incorrect, you can also provide us evidence to get those corrected. Our website, Property Search, at traviscad.org/property search, will have the details of your property, the characteristics of your property. For instance, if you have a pool or a separate garage, a fireplace, those will all be listed under the improvement section of our Property Search. If any of that information is incorrect, you could present us with construction plans with dimensions, or if you recently had a fee appraisal done and there's a sketch, you could provide that to us. So any evidence that would show that those characteristics need to be updated. And if your home has costly repairs that need to be done, you could present us with current photos of any issues your home has. If you have contractors that have bid or given you a price to repair those problems, if you have an engineer's report, you could provide that to us, or an insurance settlement report. Those would all be good evidence for any damage that you have to your home. Some other helpful documents that could be used as evidence: if you have a survey or floodplain information for your property, construction drawings, especially if your property was partially complete on January 1st, a recent fee appraisal. It would need to be completed and signed. There's some qualifications we have to do for those fee appraisals, but if you had a fee appraisal done as part of a refinance or a purchase of your home, that could be provided. And then for commercial properties, if you have an operating statement and rent roll with 3 years history, you could upload that as evidence. So evidence must be submitted in advance in order for us to review it and for it to be used at your hearing. So again, the easiest way to submit that evidence is through the online portal, but you can also do it in person or by mail. For the in-person and mail option, it does take us about 10 to 15 business days to get those into the system. So provide yourself enough time if you're going to use those options. Make sure we get them in advance, 10 to 15 days, so that they can be added to your account for your hearing. So a couple things to avoid with the protest process is waiting until the deadline. If we procrastinate, there's just so many things that could happen to where you don't get that protest filed by the deadline. And the appraisal district has very few remedies that we can actually go past that protest deadline. So don't wait till the last minute. File early. Just because you file early doesn't mean you're going to get scheduled for your formal hearing earlier. It's safer to do it earlier and avoid any headaches if you're waiting until the last minute to do that. Another thing to avoid would be comparing the price per square foot. And then also, again, you're not protesting your property taxes. So don't make arguments about your property taxes being too high or the tax increase being too high. You're protesting the market value. And again, one last tip, don't wait until the last minute. People who submit their protests early have more time to resolve their protests. You have more time to sign up for an informal meeting. There's more spots for those informal meetings. So if you're scheduling yourself for a time that's convenient for you, there's going to be more available time slots that you can choose from. You'll have more time to gather evidence based on any feedback you get from the appraiser in that informal meeting. You have more time to contact customer service for help. A lot of people wait until the last minute and then they don't have that PIN that they need for their portal account. And our customer service group we close at 4:45. There's no one there answering the phones after that on the protest deadline date. So avoid all of those issues and file early. One of the best ways you can affect your property taxes is to apply for any exemptions that you could qualify for. And the easiest of these is the general residence homestead exemption. For that one, you just have to own and occupy your home. You get a certain exemption dollar amount off your school taxes. And then you also get some exemption amounts from other entities such as the county and the city, the healthcare district, and ACC. For the general residence homestead exemption, you also have to provide your Texas ID or driver's license with the application, and the address on your driver's license or ID has to match the address of the property. There's also exemptions if you're over the age of 65 or if you're disabled. If you're a disabled vet or a surviving spouse of any of those, there are also other exemptions you could qualify for. And then get involved. Like I said earlier, beginning in August, the taxing entities have to start uploading proposed tax rates to the travistaxes.com website. And one thing I want to stress is they have to set many rates, but the first step in that calculation of their tax rate is to set a no new revenue rate. And it's a reset button. It gives them what the tax rate that would provide the same amount of revenue that they got last year using current year appraised values. Anything that's over the no new revenue rate, they're increasing taxes. So travistaxes.com, beginning in August, you can see what rates they're proposing. You can see each entity and how that's going to affect your tax bill. And again, the governing bodies of those taxing entities decide how much you're going to pay in taxes. We see thousands of property owners in our office, the appraisal district, throughout the protest process, and there might be 10 people that show up for a budget or tax rate hearing at the entity. We need as many people who protest their property to give feedback on the tax rates and the budgets to the entities. Let them know what's important to you as a constituent, what services are important. So get involved. It's our right and our responsibility to be involved in those local government decisions. So our website has a lot of information about the protest process, traviscad.org/protest. You can find handouts on how to create a portal account, how to go through the informal process. So if you have any questions, that website has a lot of great information on it. And we'll go ahead and look at some of the questions for today, but we've also provided a QR code. If you could give us some feedback on the event, if there's things that you think we need to cover in future events, any kind of feedback, use that QR code and you can leave feedback there. Okay, so let's look at some questions. How can we find the prices of homes sold in the last year? Texas does not allow third-party resources like Redfin and Zillow to post this information. How does a homeowner develop comps for evidence if we can't see the final sales prices? There are a lot of realtors and brokers that provide this service to property owners. They have access to the MLS system and they can get that for you. You can also use sites like Redfin and Zillow. The estimate of value is not always accurate, but the best bet would be getting with a realtor in the local market and getting that data. There's a question about getting TCAD evidence and if they need to submit a protest first. Yes. In order for our system to generate that evidence packet, a protest has to be filed. So file the protest, and then that evidence is usually updated on your portal within a few days. So there's a specific question about garage apartments and it's something not being habitable. So if the appraisal district has a characteristic of your property, such as a garage apartment that we're listing as an apartment or granny flat, and it's not habitable, bring in evidence that there's damage or it's not habitable. You can upload that as part of your protest evidence, and then our appraiser can review that. My net appraised value is lower than last year. Is the new appraised value dependent on last year's appraised value or the new appraisal done regardless of tax year? So the net appraised value is set every year, and it's just a calculation. It's last year's net appraised value plus 10% or the market value, whichever is lower. So you get the benefit, and when the market slows or takes a downturn and your market value is decreasing, you get the lower of those two. So you get that benefit. But in years where like the past few, where we've seen a very robust market, you'll get that limited value, and your net appraised will show that limitation of value. The market value listed for my property in this year's notice is $100,000 more than last year. Shouldn't the homestead exemption have limited the market value increase, or is that not how it works? So if you have specific questions about your property, you can call into our customer service department. But generally, a homestead, the first year you qualify establishes your base year. So if 2024 is your first year you're qualifying for the homestead exemption, you won't have a limitation in 2024. That'll set your base year. And then 2025, you would see that 10% limitation. And it's the first full year that you have a homestead exemption. So if you got the homestead exemption prorated in 23, then 24 would still be your base year. Can more evidence be submitted at the informal meeting? So the informal meetings, we are doing thousands of them. So you can submit more evidence at your informal meeting, but there is a limitation of time. We encourage you to submit any evidence before that meeting so that the appraiser can review it quickly, and it's the most efficient process. But if during that meeting there's feedback that you get from the appraiser about some other helpful documents that you could upload those after your informal, and the appraiser will go back and look at them. How can I represent my brother on a property? Is there a form? So for property owners, they can be represented by an agent or a representative. So there is a form you can fill out, a designation of agent form, but if it's a family member that you're representing, they would just need to sign a letter stating that they authorize you to act on their behalf. There's a question about getting your PIN for your owner portal if you've lost your notice of appraised value. You can call into our customer service department or email cs_info@tcadcentral.org, and we can provide that PIN to you as long as we have some identifying information. So if you have a homestead on your account and you've given us your driver's license before, we can ask you some questions to verify that it is you. If we can't, then we'll print a letter and mail it to the property that has the PIN information. So if you've lost your PIN or you need your PIN, do that in advance of the protest deadline so you have enough time to talk to us, and then for us to mail any information that you might need. For evidence, do I need to get quotes from contractors, or can I just submit photos of the damage? It is very helpful for the appraiser to see what the estimate to cost to cure, or how much it would cost to fix those damages. So if it's possible, I would get quotes for your informal meeting with the appraiser. So if my protest reason is unequal appraisal, can I submit comps based on equal and uniform analysis of similar properties in my neighborhood? Yes. So there's two standards to protest by. You can protest that your market value is too high based on market information, or you can protest based on equal and uniform. So if you're protesting on equal and uniform, you can provide comps in your neighborhood or market area that show you're being appraised unfairly based on other comparable properties. How many miles can you use sold properties as comparables to your property? There's not a set miles that we look at. We do want them close in proximity, so in your neighborhood is best, but there's not a set standard on how many miles you can go out. Does the portal allow you to submit evidence at different times, or does it have to be done right at one time? You can submit evidence at any time throughout the process, and you can do it multiple times. You can supplement your evidence if you get additional documents. Do I need to have comparables of other properties if I bought my home February 1st, 2024 for a much lower price than the market value? So again, our sales range is from January 1st, 2023 through February 29th, 2024. So if you bought your home within that period, you could just provide us with your settlement statement showing the sales price was lower than the market value, and then we could reach an informal agreement on that. How do I use the comparable sales report? Do I use the average sales price? How close should it be to my property? So these are real specific questions that a realtor could probably help you with, but you want to pick houses that are comparable to yours. In appraisal, we make adjustments for anything that's different in that property. So if you could just get a report of the property with the sales price, our appraiser can then analyze those comparables and help you there. And it looks like that is all the questions we have for today. Again, thank you all for joining us on this webinar. We hope that it's helped you and prepared you some for the protest process. And again, if you have any feedback for us, use that QR code and let us know what you thought about the webinar, if there's any other services we could provide through a webinar format. Thank you all very much.